Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning,
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
all participants. My name is Manisa Mustar. It's a precious chance for me to be your master of ceremony on this international webinar second series, Strengthening Research Ethics Using Plagiarism Tools. Thank you for the presence of all participants who could join us. Before starting our event, the committee will show some webinar etiquette. We will play you the webinar etiquette video.
Welcome to International Webinar Second Series, Strengthening Research Ethics Using Plagiarism Tools, brought to you by Universitas Gadjah Mada, Jakarta Campus. Online meeting etiquettes and information. First, the participants have to be in the Zoom room 10 minutes before the webinar starts, and please use your full name. Second, this event will use a Zoom meeting. When the event starts, the host will mute all the participants' microphones. Third, the participants who would like to ask questions can type in the chat box or use the raise hand tool. Fourth, the attendance and certificate form will be shared in the chat box. Please make sure you fill up with your correct name and email. The certificate will be sent to you by email within 14 days. Fifth, this event will record and streaming on our YouTube channel UGM Kampus Jakarta. Find us more on jakarta.ugm.ac.id, YouTube UGM Kampus Jakarta, Instagram @perpustakaan_UGM JKT.
Thank you, committee. This morning, we have several agendas as follows. Opening and singing the great Indonesian anthem and hymn Gadjah Mada. Photo session. Welcoming remarks from Executive Secretary Universitas Gadjah Mada. Program and speakers introduction. The first presentation, Q&A session. The second presentation, Q&A session, door prize and closing. Well, let us listen to the song Indonesia Raya and the hymn Gadjah Mada.
I'm sorry, Maniso, your mic is still mute. Please unmute. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. It's time for photo session. The committee will take pictures. Please give your best smile. Photo
Tinggal
first
diganti
slide.
nama doang. Mana? M.
One. Okay, ready? First slide. Okay. First slide. 1, 2, 3. Second slide. 1, 2, 3. Third slide. 1, 2, 3. Fourth slide. 1, 2, 3. Fifth slide. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen. Hello, committee.
Welcome.
Okay.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. The next, please welcome to the Executive Secretary Universitas Gadjah Mada to give the opening remarks. Mr. Gugup Kismono, MBA, Ph.D. Welcome.
Thank you, Mas Mostar. Thank you very much for the time. Dear speakers, Ibu Bertha Maya Shopa, Ph.D., and Bapak Jack Brazel, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome all of you this morning, or whatever your time, to the International Summit webinar, Strengthening Research Ethics Using Plagiarism Tools, organized by Universitas Gadjah Mada, Jakarta office. The significance of this webinar is well noticed by many parties, particularly participants who are preparing to write research reports and theses. Many people experience difficulties in avoiding plagiarisms of scientific work, especially when citing previous research. Plagiarism is closely related with research ethics that upholds the originality of scientific work. Therefore, sports to strengthen research ethics and high quality of research is needed. The sports may be obtained using plagiarism tools. This webinar is attended by prominent mentors from Indonesia and Australia. The first, Ibu Bertha Maya Shopa, Ph.D., lecturer at the Faculty of Engineering, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Vice President of IEOM Indonesia chapter, and Chair of Indonesian Association of Industrial Engineering Higher Education Institution. Second, Bapak Jack Brazel. He is Regional Director, Southeast Asia Turnitin. Ladies and gentlemen, more than 3,000 people from 30 different countries have registered for today's webinar. As a result, this webinar will provide us with opportunities to assist participants in understanding research ethics, particularly in making citation to avoid plagiarism using plagiarism tools. Lastly, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the organizers, my colleagues at Ustaz Gajah Mada, Mas Yahya and his team, Safira, and also Mas Mustar, and our distinguished speakers and participants. I hope this interesting webinar is beneficial to all of us. Again, I warmly welcome you to this important event. Enjoy and thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Gugup, for his remarks. Let's continue to the main event today. Okay, the webinar has two speakers. First speaker is Mrs. Bertha Maya Shopa as lecturer and researcher from the Faculty of Engineering, Universitas Gadjah Mada. And second speaker is Mr. Jack Brazel from Regional Director Southeast Asia Turnitin with Ms. Safira. Safira is working at Universitas Gadjah Mada Library, focusing on international affairs and also a lecturer in Graduate School of Information and Library Management, Universitas Gadjah Mada. She got her master's degree from Curtin University of Technology, Perth, and got her Ph.D. from the University of South Australia. Please welcome Ms. Safira Khair, Ph.D., to guide this event.
Thank you so much, Mas Manso. Thank you so much. Hey, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Hello, how are you today? Salam sehat dan salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Please allow me to greet some respected team. Bapak Gugup Kismona PhD. Selamat pagi, good morning Bapak. Bapak adalah Executive Secretary from Universitas Gadjah Mada. I'm sure that you're doing very well. Thank you so much for your support. And Pak Dr. Yahya Kuntadi, Head of UGM Jakarta Office. Selamat pagi Bapak. I'm sure you're also doing well. Congratulations for having this useful sharing session for international audience. I know this is because you have great team. They work very hard to organize this important activity. Mbak Nova, Mas Kailani, adik Putri Tresnawati Suryana, well done. Selamat ya. Okay, we are very glad that we meet in a warm morning, at least morning in Indonesia, in an international webinar from UGM Jakarta office with the topic Strengthening Ethics and Using Plagiarism Tools in Research. This session is for all UGM academics, for students, lecturers, undergraduate, and postgraduate. This is also for public, so anyone in the world can join us. So this is part of the commitment of UGM Library Jakarta office to serve our patron with useful knowledge and information. Hello, everyone. We can see here more than like 75% from Indonesia and others from overseas. I can see around more than 900 here and some others via YouTube streaming. Wow, it's very nice to see you. So we have like more than 30 slides or pages on YouTube here. I can see participants from Philippines, hello, India, Malaysia, Thailand, Nigeria, Cameroon, England, okay, time difference, and also Bangladesh. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this useful session. Thank you so much for the positive energy. I'm sorry. Yes, thank you so much for today's topic is extremely important. We will talk about research ethics. Why this is important? It's because today we will share some important information to support you to reach the best in your academic goals. We also will ensure that you will conduct your research ethically by considering many aspects, including when we collect the data, such as participants' responsibility and rights. We have to know that, confidentiality of information, data security, and also data storage. And also when we present the finding, when we write the discussion and then conclusion. This is very important. And further, how to avoid plagiarism. We need to check, of course, and then practice. Yes, we all know that sometimes we do not realize that we say, for example, we cite some academic sources without acknowledging it. Although we do it sometimes accidentally or not in purpose, but this is not ethical and considered a serious issue. Today we already have Ibu Bertha and Bapak Jack Brazel from Turnitin. Hello, Ibu Bertha and Jack. Thank you so much for joining us today. And in our session, we will have Ibu Bertha first, and then we will have Q&A, and then we will just continue with Jack. So please allow me to read her CV. Ibu Bertha, Insinyur Bertha Maya Sofa, ST, M.Sc, Ph.D, IPU, ASEAN, ENG. Oh, wow, Ibu Bertha. Selamat pagi. Ibu Bertha is a lecturer of Industrial Engineering Program, Universitas Gadjah Mada, and she's also a chair of Indonesian Association of Industrial Engineering Higher Education Institution, or Badan Kerjasama Penyelenggara Pendidikan Tinggi Teknik Industri, BKSTI. Okay. And she's also Vice President of Industrial Engineering and Operation Management Indonesia chapter. She obtained her PhD in Industrial Ecology, Norwegian University and Science and Technology in 2011, and she also conducted her postdoc in Energy Behavior, the same university, Norwegian University of Science and Technology in 2011 and 12. And her achievement is very outstanding. So 5,000 Indonesian Best Scientists AD Scientific Index 2022. And she was also a Distinguished Woman in Industry and Academia Award in 2021. And also the Industrial Engineering and Operation Management Society, and also Maritime Economics and Logistics Editor's Choice Awards in 2020 from Palgrave Macmillan Springer. Okay, selamat pagi Ibu, and before we start, let me kindly remind you that you may have your questions later in the chat box, or raise your hand and we will give you a chance to ask questions directly. All right, so with no further ado, yang kami hormati Ibu Bertha, please welcome.
Thank you very much, Bu Safira, for the greetings and for the introductions. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are in the globe. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to the international webinar on the strengthening research ethics using plagiarism tools. So please, I would like to share my slides. Okay, can you see my slides?
Sure do.
Yes, Ibu.
Okay, thank you very much. It is also an honor for me to share with you to my presentations, which is titled The Ethics in Research. So basically, I was asked to deliver the ethic the dimensions in the conducting and also the report to report the research. So what I'm going to deliver to you is actually based on my experience. When I'm lecturing the research methodology, that is more than 10 semesters by now, and also my research experience since the last 20 years, because I was joining in the Universitas Gadjah Mada since last 20 years ago. So in the next 30 minutes, I would like to deliver these topics. So first of all, I would like to introduce with some ethics in research, and the ethics during the conducting research, and also the publications. And mostly, I think the most issue that we have now having now is like plagiarism. So I would like to share also some tips on how to avoid the plagiarisms. And lastly, I would like to give some information on the plagiarism detection tools that I think in the next speaker will deliver it's more intensively on these issues. Okay, first of all, I would like to start with the ethics in research. As we know that we are as an academic researcher, we are engaging with the academic research cycles. So usually we start with reading books or journals just to explore the potential research topics, which may contribute to our community or also contribute to scientific. Once we decide on the research topics, then we usually try to search for the fundings, and then we do the research, and then afterwards we try to report the research. As we know that we have the aphorism, as we call it, public affairs. Once we have conducting the research, it is our obligation for the researcher to publish, because otherwise what we have done in the research will be perished. So this is the important steps that the research has the obligation to disseminate their research. So through the articles or books, and once we get published, sometimes institution or academic institution use the number of publication of the number of citations as the academic performance indicators. And then usually based on this, it can be decided whether we can get the continuous for fundings or not. So this is the way that we do the research in our I think in most the academic research. So then when we talk about the ethics, what is really the ethics? So I just take the definition from the ethics, so the ethics is a norms or code of conduct which distinguish between which one is acceptable behavior and which one is not. So when we talk about the ethics in research, so it's like the norms of the conducts of the of during the planning, the conducting, and reporting the research. This is I quoted from the Kalikman. So we know that ethics within the research have many dimensions. Of course, I provide you some list here. It's not an exhaustive list, but I just give you some illustrations of what kind of ethics that comply within the research. So maybe for the planning, it's not so many things. It is in the planning stage, it's like more the similar things when we do some reporting or publication. So here I would like to give you two emphasizes that research ethics in research could in the form of data collection, data use, or data interpretations, and we reporting the findings. But moreover, ethics also defines how the relationship between among the researchers, like the ethics when we found make the order of the authorships in the publication. Those who contributes more on the writing the publications has a right to, for example, to be a first author and otherwise. And also ethics also define the relationships between the researchers and other institutions that may affect or being affected by our research. So, but because 30 minutes is not so many to discuss everything, so I would like to squeeze to those that we as a, academic researchers usually has an issue on that. So so why we do the research ethics? So as explained earlier by Busafira, that yes, ethics is actually it ensures the research to avoid error at the first stage. So we try to deliver the research that is objective, and we ensure that the objectivity and also the ensure the result that is not the wrong one. So it's also ethical to make that to avoid that other researcher might do the the research based on the previous research, which is not built based on which is based on the false premise. So we have obligations to deliver the research that is right. And the second one, that of course ethics is it's about respecting the ownerships of ideas of work of the researchers. In that way, the fairness, those who contribute more might have more credits, and otherwise those who not contribute is not deserve for the credits. So it's ensure the fairness for when conducting the research. In that way, we build a trust and accountability not only among the researchers but also to our society. And most of all, that the ethics it's part of our values, social values, norms that we have to maintain. Not actually, it's not only in the academics environment but also in the community. So these two topics that I would discuss in this the next slides. So first, when we talk about the ethics in conducting research, it deals with the data collections. For the research that includes the human or animals, it must follow the applicable ethical standard. Usually, it's based on the Helsinki Declaration, or maybe you can use some relevant local or national international policy. For the research that include human subjects, but some research is not, they do not intervening studies, like non-interventional studies, like a survey or interview. Still, the ethical clearance is still required. So usually it could be based on the institutional ethics committee. So, and good journals usually require that this should be provided to the editors and also should be specifically explicitly specified in the manuscript. So with respect to data reporting, so of course we as a researchers needs to be honestly report our results and not influenced by personal interest or with other interests. So, and the most important things that we are not doing are plagiarisms. I will talk more on this in the next slides. So, here I would like to provide you some lists what some unethical behavior during the research conduction. So, actually, I found that based on my experience, I found few of the students did this. So they fabricate the data, making up the data and result. They were not actually collecting the data, but they made it up. So this is not, is of course is unethical behavior. And also regarding the falsification. So when we do, just to make sure that our research is based on the right premise, not the wrong one. If we know that it's wrong, so don't continue. Just fix it until it's right, then you can continue. And also, the most important is regarding the figure manipulations. I found that some publication, when I do the review on the journals, actually, I have an experience that there are two papers that has very similar figures. So even though the colors is different, but it's still similar figure. So this is also not this is unethical behavior, and mostly what we usually found, it's like the issue on the plagiarism, that we just copying text, figures, and tables from others, just put at it is in our publication without appropriate citations. But actually, most of all, that these unethical behavior is is regarding that we distort the truth. As Listenberg said, that the most dangerous all falsehoods is a slightly distorted truth. So it's more the moral things. So now I'm going to go to publication ethics. Here I would like to address on the plagiarism and self-plagiarism. I believe that most of you has already known what the plagiarism is, but maybe some of you might not aware on the self-plagiarisms. So I will be back to the aphorisms that is really for the scientific researchers to publish what they have already found in their research. But when we do the when we engage with the plagiarism, so the publish or perish will be like when published, after published we will be perished. So I hope this will not happen to all of us. So just to make sure when we do to maintain the ethics in publication, be aware of the copyrights. So when we use or reuse the figures usually the figures or videos or data, in some cases permissions are required. Please ensure check thoroughly on this, and also please do not copy anything without a proper referencing. So this is very important to avoid plagiarism. And the last one is a repetitive publication. So usually um, some researchers are really pressurized to produce as many as publications. So this will make them to publish uh, research that has similar with the previous research. So this is what we call the repetitive publications. So what is actually the plagiarism? So I drew these definitions from the Oxford Dictionary, that plagiarism is defined as the practice of taking someone else's works or ideas and passing them off as one's own. It means that we take a credit from others works. So in Indonesia, we also have regulation regarding the plagiarisms, which is in the Peraturan Menteri Pendidikan Nasional Republik Indonesia number 17 year 2010, that plagiarism is attitude whether it's purposely or in accidentally try to get credit from the scientific products by taking some or all the works without the proper citations or proper referencings. So this regulation also details what kind of what behavior that is considered plagiarism. So I apologize that maybe some of you from abroad Indonesia may not know where it is. Because I written in Indonesian exactly the same as written in the regulation. But I just give you some highlights that it's, as I said earlier, that it's we use other words partly or entirely without proper citations. And also in this regulation, there's a penalty from the light until the strong penalty until for the strong was like the cancelled of the certification of the study achievement. So back to the plagiarism. Actually, there are different types of, as I said earlier, that we know that there's what we call the self-plagiarism. So self-plagiarism is defined as a type of plagiarism in which the writer republishes a work it's entirely or reuse portion of a previous written while authoring a new work. It means that we use our own works, the previous one that has already published, and we use it as a new one. So it could be like the form of the repetitive publication. It's also considered as a self-plagiarism. So the difference between the plagiarism and the self-plagiarism, that where the plagiarism is referring to the practice of claiming credits for the worst ideas from others, and the self-plagiarism that we presenting our own previously published work as as it were new. So so please really consider this. Self-plagiarism is includes as an ethical behavior. So we need to avoid this. So there are different types, as I said earlier, different types of self-plagiarism. So the first one is regarding the repetitive or duplicate publication. So we have the similar paper that published elsewhere, but we not we didn't notify the reader or the publisher that we have already published this. Some question may arise like, I have published this paper in the international conference. Now I would like to use it to submit into the journal, for example. So first, you cannot really exactly use exactly the same of the publication to be submitted to the journal. So you have to add uh, some portion of the research which is not same as the previous one. And the second one, you need to inform the reader and the publisher that this part of the work has been published earlier. So that's the way how we to avoid the self-plagiarism. And the second one, as I mentioned earlier, is what we call it the mid-slicing publication. For example, we have a research, one research topics, but since we want to have more publications, so we divided that research topics into many publications. So this is also unethical behavior, even though it's our own work, but it's unethical because we didn't deliver the research as a whole. So uh, so please also be aware of this, that it's also considered as self-plagiarism. And the third one is the reuse the proper portions of the previous written or published text. It's obviously it's a self-plagiarism. So if we do this, that to avoid this self-plagiarism, we need to inform. We cannot use the exactly similar types of versions of publication in and consider it as a new. So if we want to extend, it's possible, but we have to have different part that is different, and also we inform the readers that that some part of the works is based on the previous works. That's how we deal with the self-plagiarism. So in summary, so how to avoid plagiarism? As we know from the definitions that even though the behavior is on purpose or because we don't know, so it's very important that we understand what plagiarism is, because even though we do that accidentally, still it is considered as plagiarism. So it is very important to us as academic researchers to understand what plagiarism, what types of plagiarisms, what behavior that is considered plagiarism, and also to understand how to do the proper referencing or to do the appropriate citations. So to do that, I would suggest that I think when we submit our paper to a journal, please read carefully the author guidelines, because the journal maybe usually have a different rules, but I think most of them are the same, but yeah, with slightly difference. So we really to understand how to reference to do the referencing in appropriate way. And from my personal experience, I would like to suggest that when you do the writings, put all the papers away. So because sometimes the way our brains work is like when we read, we tend to use the similar words while we write. So to make to maintain to avoid the plagiarism, it's better that you need to read first, really understand the content, and then you rewrite it using your own words. So by that way, the potentiality or the probability that we use the similar word can be avoided. So, but in some cases, when we are not, we are unable to write by our own words, still we need to paraphrase. So paraphrasing is very important. So basically try to use your own work to write your your own publications, and not influenced by other papers or other works, and try to do the paraphrase as much as you can and also put the proper citation on that. So that's my tips for to avoid the plagiarism. Of course, I believe that many of you may have more effective tips than what I have, but it's I think for me it's work best. So then I would like to conclude that luckily because of the development of the information technology, we can use some software regarding the plagiarism detecting tools. As I mentioned earlier, we have a Turnitin that maybe in the next speaker, Pak Jack, will deliver this more comprehensively. And I would like to inform that there are some other tools that might be free for you, but some we need to subscribe. But I think most of the institution right now has already provided the students and also for the academic research to have this. So with that, I would like to conclude my presentations and thank you very much for your attention. So I would like to deliver back to Bu Safira. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Ibu Bertha. Very useful and very enlightening presentation. Thank you so much. Please allow me to highlight some points. So it's very clear that Ibu Bertha explained a very good points of the ethics. So this is some highlights. So if you ask yourself, does my study need ethical approval? So as Ibu Bertha explained that all research using either animals or human subject, we need the ethical approval. So this approval should be obtained from the related institution or institution in which the research will be carried out. And Ibu Bertha also explained very well that the ethics sets standard of what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Therefore, we make sure that we protect both participants and the researchers. So she also explained clearly that we must conduct the research ethically from the preparation until the publication stage. So say in the preparation stage, if we conduct the survey or interview, for example, we need to provide some questions that we will ask honestly. So then the ethics committee will review and ensure that all questions are considered ethical and then respect the participants. And also in the writing stage, Ibu Bertha highlights some points. You need to ensure that you understand the plagiarism and you understand how to cite, how to paraphrase, and later in this case, some tools will help and Turnitin in this case will be very useful to help us to make sure that we do not practice plagiarism. Okay, so now we can hit the Q&A session. I can just see some questions that the audience here try to ask Ibu Bertha. Can we start from the first one from Jambi? Hi Jambi, Indonesia. Selamat pagi. So from Johar, this is Mas Johar, Bapak Johar. How the publication ethics view if I edit some new data and combine it with the old data which is already published in journal? For my new paper manuscript, is that prohibited or allowed to do? Perhaps like we discuss it one by one. Ibu Bertha, please.
Yes. Okay. So I just directly answer this question, right? Okay. Could you just show the question again?
Yes.
So, yeah. It's my understanding that if we use the new data and then combine with the old previous data, is it allowed to do so? Is that correct? So yeah. Based on my presentation that I have delivered this morning, that this is if we try to disregard with the self-plagiarism, of course. So the things that we need to try to avoid the self-plagiarism is that first we need to differentiate between our previous one and the new one. So when we, if we want to use the new data, which is combined with the old data, we have to clearly deliver or to clearly explain which data is the old one and which data is the new one. So in that way, we can we deliver that, okay, this is my new contribution on the paper. So it has to be clearly defined at the first place and explicitly defined in the manuscript. And then the second one, that we need to other like reader or the journal editor aware of this. So we have to report it, that this work has been extended versions of the previous one. So I think if we do that, as far as I know, we try to fit into the compliance on and try to avoid the self-plagiarism, and should be okay.
Okay, thank you so much, Ibu Bertha. So allow me to just like summarize it in Indonesia. So tidak apa-apa selama itu di state clearly di awal bahwa ini misalnya ada data saya yang lama kemudian saya combine dengan yang baru karena ada perkembangan bla 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 dengan reference yang seperti ini. Dan kemudian jadi apa yang terjadi itu dilaporkan, kan intinya seperti itu. Jadi this is okay, this is acceptable as long as selama itu dinyatakan yang jelas sejak awal. Begitu. Thank you so much, Mas Johar, for the questions. Now we go to Philippines. Oh, thank you so much, Uriel. Doing research to be published in our university's research journal. Using previous gathered data from my research and using it to shed light to another gap. That will be the focus. Can I recycle the data and use it in new perspective, or will it be considered self-plagiarism? Ibu, please.
Yeah, it is also almost similar with the previous one, but this one I believe that okay, I use the similar data, but maybe the data will be analyzed with a different way. If I understand. So in that case, still we need to report the data is based on the previous one, and then we do this. Let's say the same. Actually, if we do exactly the same similar data, it could be considered as self-plagiarism, even though we use a different methodology. So it should have something that we delivered as a new, not only for the methodology, but also maybe part of the data also considered new. Sometimes it's like it's still in the gray area. So if we talk about if we submit this to a journal, usually the journal editor or they have like some ethical committee will decide whether this study is acceptable or not. But as far as I know, if we use exactly similar data, but the different methodology, it's still considered as self-plagiarism. If we want to use it as a different perspective, you need to add like, well, add some data, which is, the data is not exactly the same, but it's like, well, even though it's not that so significant data that you could add, but still it's different. So then you can deliver that this data is the new data that we have add on to the previous one, and we use a different methodology. For my perspective, or at least from my experience, it should be acceptable in that way.
Okay, well, that's good. So as long as we add something new to
yes.
give something new, although this is not all, so this is okay and considered acceptable. I know this is very challenging, especially if we have the whole data set and then the data collection is finished, and then we want to see this from different perspective. So this is very challenging, but we need also to consider the ethical aspect in publication.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. And can we have the next questions, please? Hi, Rifani from Padang, Indonesia. Selamat pagi. This is from a publisher's point of view about the author who submit some papers to several journals at the same time. How to detect that, to prevent and the action. Oh, this is a bit clear, Ibu Bertha, silakan.
Yes. I'm not the publisher, but so I cannot really answer how they work. but I would like to share my experience that I've been reviewers for a different journal in the Elsevier and also in the Springer. So actually, they have the similar system. For example, like I review a paper that is submitted in the Energy Policy Journal, and the other one, maybe similar papers to be submitted in the, let's say, simulation journal that is published in similar publishers as of here. We can detect that. I have one experience that first I reviewed the paper that is submitted to one journal and got rejected, and then the author resubmitted again with the journal, and accidentally I was the similar reviewer that has been assigned before, and
Okay.
then I can see that that the paper is not has not been revised. So I just told the editor that it has been submitted in this journal, and then the editor just consult with the other journal, and then the paper is blacklisted from the publication.
Oh.
So yeah, so be careful. So don't
Yes.
submit one journal at the same time to different journals. It's not it's unethical to do so. So we have to like submit a journal a paper to one journal, and then let them finish until the decision has been achieved. Then you can resubmit to another journal. That's how it works. That's how it works in an ethical
I
way.
know. This is really clear that this is not ethical if we submit one paper to different
Exactly.
journals.
No, yeah,
Because
exactly.
sometimes we need to wait a long time, Ibu,
Yeah.
to get
More
the
than 1
results. So
year
that's why,
sometimes.
yes,
Exactly,
I
exactly.
know. So if we know how it works with the process and the stages from the preparation to publication, I think we are okay. But please do not submit one article to different journals at the same
Yeah,
time. Please just
exactly.
wait until the decision is made.
Exactly.
All right.
They have because they have the same for detection the paper that has been submitted in the different journal, but in the same publisher. They have that system.
Okay. Even we just need, even we try to just, I mean, like change the title, but they still,
Yeah, they still can detect. Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. Now we will just give a chance to the audience who would like to ask questions directly by raising hands. Please. Yes, okay, we got some. Yes, can we try to give Ayu Aulia Octaviani, please? Hi, good morning. Ibu Ayu Aulia, are you there? You raise your hand.
Hi.
Oh no. Okay, now the committee, can you help to decide, or is there anyone ready to ask questions directly?
We can next to the Kenneth the families to
okay, Kenneth. Hi, Kenneth. Good morning. Can you please introduce yourself shortly?
Yes, my name is Kenneth Dimapoulos from the Philippines.
Hi, Philippines.
Yes. Okay.
Hi,
Thank you so much. I appreciate the research ethics that we have right now. So this is my question, ma'am. I'm a bit confused with regards to citation because others said that journal cannot be cited because they are not scientific. So that will be the first question in my mind. And the second question that I do have is like, when to know if you want to have this as part of research ethics, when to stop the research, especially that we are now in a COVID time. If your participants is the students, and we need actually to consider their safety, are we still gonna pursue with the research that we need to bring them to a certain place so that they can have an experimental research, or to have a survey and everything? So is it the time that we need to stop the research for a while and then wait when things are okay? So that would be my questions. 2 questions.
Yes, thank you, Kenneth. Thank you for the questions. So can I just directly answer the questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the first question is the journal. It's as far as I understand, the journal is a scientific, scientific work. So it can be cited. So those things that we cannot use, normally not use in the academics research, is that like a let's say like a personal blog or personal website. We are not allowed to use that in our citations, because that we cannot ensure that the information is validated or not. But for the journal, the papers in the journal, it can be cited, because the papers published in the journal has followed the review process, which is usually it's very long process to do that. So that's the first answer. And the second one, regarding, as I understand, you, for example, you did a survey, right? It depends on the survey, whether the survey is considered as an interventional study or non-interventional study. Both are required for the ethical clearance. So you need to apply to get approved for the ethical clearance, particularly for interventional study. It's the how to say, there's a points that you really need to address that, and it's very more strictly than the non-interventional studies. But still, if you ask about the COVID conditions, like, okay, if you do the survey, prior to the survey, you need to get your instrument approved by the ethical clearance. The ethical committee has considered all the possibility, like the question whether it's the question is right to ask or it's not harming our subjects. So they have to ensure about that. Once it gets approved, it means that your instruments has compliance with the ethical issues. And then the second one, like, okay, now we have the pandemic conditions, and for example, I got my instrument already approved. So it's depend. Usually, the non-interventional study such as survey is a voluntary study. So it's depend on the respondent whether they want to participate or not. But as long as you have, because the respondent has to fulfill the informed consent, whether they has no pressure to contribute or to participate in your research. So if they want to contribute, they agreed, and you have the proof that they agreed to participate. So it's okay. So it's fine. It's totally fine. But if you pressurize your respondent to contribute to the survey, now it's not. That's the unethical way to do. So I hope that I answer your questions.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Terima kasih.
Sama-sama.
Thank you so
You can speak
much,
English.
Kenneth. Terima
Okay.
kasih. Okay. Now, do we have one more questions for those who raise hand? Yep. Okay. Let me just.
Nelmar.
Yes.
Okay,
Hello,
Nelmar.
Nelmar Salazar. Are you there?
Hello, ma'am. Good morning.
Morning. Where do you come
You
from?
can hear me? You can hear me? I am from the
Yes, I can.
Philippines.
Perfect.
Okay,
And I've
from
been
Philippines.
yeah, and I've been working as a private research consultant. But my concern is that from the standpoint of reality and legality of a research manuscript, do we consider that paraphrasing to be ethically legal? Because based on my experience, mom, lots of papers are paraphrased.
Yes.
So do we consider that as ethically legal? Especially if the entirety
yes.
of the manuscript, especially in the background of this study or in the abstract, is paraphrased.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
Ibu, please.
Okay. Then, yes, paraphrasing is allowed. So we are allowed to. Uh, we need to paraphrase if we want to use the similar facts to put into our article or publications. So we need to do the paraphrase. But it's not only the paraphrase, but we need to also to put the proper referencing on the facts that we have borrowed from others articles to put into our articles. So I think I hope that I can answer your question. So paraphrasing is okay, but paraphrasing is not
So,
enough. You need to put also the proper referencing. That's all. Okay.
Yes, Melma, I hope this is clear.
yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you so much
You're
for the
welcome.
questions. Okay, so now we may have one more. Hello, Shahrul. Hi, Shahrul, are you there? Thank you so much for raising your hand.
I am.
Yes, please.
Okay. Actually, I have already write my question in chat box, but maybe it doesn't matter if I have a question directly to the presenter, right?
Yes, where do you come from? Sorry, Indonesia or?
Yes, I am from Indonesia, from the Republic of Indonesia Defense University, Unhan RI, Bogor.
Oh,
Sentul.
Unhan, okay.
Yes.
Hello, Bogor. Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
I am. Yes, nice to meet you and great presentation from the presenter. And I have a question about the maybe based on your view, what do you think if my article already published in preprint journal in MDPI, preprint journal in MDPI, and then I edited some of views of my articles, then I submit in particular journal. So is it considered to be self-plagiarism or maybe full plagiarism? Because in preprint journal in MDPI, I have already EDOI. So, and already indexed from the Pablon. So what do you think about that? Thank you.
Okay. So first of all, I would like to ask you what's the difference between the previous and the new one?
The previous is maybe just a basic, and then I add some of view and subtopics in my article. So actually, all of that maybe is the same. The title is the same, but the content is maybe some added from my subtopics in in my article.
So did you use also similar data?
Similar data, yes.
Okay, as far as I understand that you only just add some part
Yes.
to new one. So I would say it's considered self-plagiarism because the new one should be has a significant difference between the previous one. So if we don't make any significant contribution to a new one, it could be considered as a similar publication. So like if you add one subtitle, well, it's only like maybe only a half pages or 1 pages. It's not a significant contribution. So I would say it is considered self-plagiarism. For now, based on your information, I don't see your actual articles, but based on your information, for now, I would say it's a self-plagiarism. So I would suggest that you may if it's not go further, just to stop and withdraw your new paper because it will hurt your reputation.
Yes, excuse me. Even though the journal is just preprint, that means not yet to be reviewed, not yet for review. So then I would like to submit in the high reputation journal.
Right. Okay. So I missed that information. So if it's not yet to be reviewed, but you already submitted but not yet to be reviewed, I would suggest that you withdraw the paper. because it's allowed as long as the paper is not yet reviewed by the reviewer. It's okay for us to ask to the editor to withdraw the paper, but it's not polite if the paper is already being reviewed and we withdraw. It's not okay to do that. But if it's not yet to be reviewed, you can just withdraw the previous one. And if you want to add something to a new one, it's okay. Then after withdraw, you can submit to another journal.
Okay, thank you.
If perhaps I'm not so sure if I missed the information. So Shahrul already uploaded or published it in a preprint format and got the DOI, right? This is preprint, like the final draft, like that. And after that, plan to submit to
Okay. Then I have a question. Like usually, if the paper has already DOI, it has been published. It's considered been published.
Yes.
It's considered been
preprint
published.
version. Is that right?
Even though it's
Shahrul?
Yes, full version and has DOI.
Did it has been through reviewed?
Not yet.
Oh.
In one
just review on the editorial
platform?
board.
Yeah, it's usually like open review, right?
Yes, open review.
But the other thing is, if the paper has already DOI, it's considered has been published. So if the paper has been published, it means that well, it's a everyone can read your paper, and also everyone can see if this paper will be the same or similar or or different with other one. So then the risk to be considered as plagiarism gets higher. So because it's the thing is that the difference between the previous and the new one is not significant. So it can be considered. So I would say like you need to withdraw one of them to avoid the self-plagiarism. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, the main thing is just we need to be careful, but what we respond here is only based on your information here, but we still couldn't see like the details in each paper, right, Ibu? So yeah, so far this is
that's
okay.
the solution that
I hope in this stage. Yes, Ibu, please.
I mean, like based on I just said this based on your information. I haven't seen the exact articles, and I could not really evaluate the difference. It's just based on your information. So then my suggestion would be very subjective. But I would be suggest like if we want to carefully see on this, and because the risk is higher than what we did now. What we do now, so I think we need to avoid that, because if it's considered self-plagiarism, it will hurt your future reputation. So it's a very dangerous, I think. Yes.
All right.
Okay.
Ibu, thank you so much for the response, and Shahrul, thank you so much for sharing your concern. Now we will just have another questions from the chat box. Hi, India, Divya Beast. Hello, India. Thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you so much for the questions. If I use the result of my finding that are in table of format and images to multiple papers because it's necessary to show result, is that also plagiarism?
Yeah.
Yes,
you need to put the referencing on that. I have another voice here. So if we want
Mbak Panitia,
yeah,
Ibu
I have a noise. Yes.
Bapak, sorry, thank you so much.
Okay, so if we want to use a table or images or figures from our previous papers to be used in other papers, so you need to put the citation on that. It means that the figures or the tables that we use in our new papers is not new, but they were based on our previous one. So it's possible, it's allowable to us to use the figures or the tables from the previous one, as long as we put the referencing on that. And the second one, I think we need to be really careful. If that figures or that tables has already been published in the journals, sometimes we need to ask for the copy, because it's the copyright permission. So sometimes we need to ask the permission first before we use that in our new articles. So that's what I hope I answer your questions.
Thank you, Ibu. I think this is very clear to ask permission before we use the the figure or the format or the table. Can we have other questions, please, from the chat box? Okay, Ibu Nova, or we can have the raise hand. Okay.
Okay, we can continue to raise hand. Sinda Durai Tove, and then we next event.
Okay. So, hello, Sinadurai. Hi. Sinadurai, are you there?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, thank you so much for
Yes,
raising your hand.
yes, my question is, if one author, if we are going to cite any information, we should cite who is the one first published that information, no? Who is the one first published that information? But sometimes I have seen that some people, they will cite as a own information when we are going to search it, but it was previously published by somebody. So in that case, how we can cite the particular information? Because we are unable to get the that original author. Difficult to find the original author who first published the information. So many times.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Sinadurai, where do you come from? Sorry.
I'm from Sri Lanka.
Hi, Sri Lanka. Okay, thank you so much. Ibu Bertha, please.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, Sinadurai from Sri Lanka. Okay, so if we have want to use a facts that is already cited in one publication, and the other publication cited that earlier publication cited that, it's better that we use the original reference for that. But if we cannot find the original reference, there's we can use like the second layer of the reference, but we need to there's a way how to say there's a rule how we use the citations, the facts that is based not from the original. So I think you need to consult or to see the different journal may have a different way how to do that. So it's okay, but so I repeat that it's best if we can cite from the original reference, but if we cannot have an access to the original reference, we can use from the other reference that cite that original citations. But of course, there's a rule how to do that for the citations. So different journal has different rules for citation for doing the citation for that case.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you so much,
Thank
Ibu.
you very
So
much.
I'm sure this is very clear. So try your best to track back to the original documents. And if you want to have like some others after that, you may just have it as the additional or supporting argument. But try your best first. Thank you so much, Ibu Bertha. And now it's time for us to go to the next session. So Ibu Bertha, I would like to say thank you so much for sharing with us today. It's very useful. I'm sure everybody feels very useful and this is very enlightening. Thank you so much for all the questions from the audience. I can see the positive energy, and now we will just move to the next session. Ibu Bertha,
thank you
so much.
It's an honor to be here.
Thank you, Ibu Bertha. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Ibu.
Thank you.
Okay, so the session 2, we will have Jack Brazel. So he's the regional director, Southeast Asia Turnitin. I'm sure like many of you already familiar with the word Turnitin or this plagiarism tools. So so we will have Jack and just need to make sure, Jack,
Yes,
you here,
yeah.
right?
Yes, I'm here.
Hi.
Selamat pagi.
Okay. Selamat pagi, Jack. Okay, before we start, let me read some CV from Jack. So Jack has been responsible for the growth of Turnitin in Southeast Asia since December 2015, focusing on the higher education sectors in Indonesia, the Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, and Singapore. Jack brings a high-performance, result-driven approach that is central to recruiting and developing multinational teams that drive the revenue growth for Turnitin in the region. For over 5 years, Jack has worked closely with a network of channel partners and has cultivated fundamental strategic relationship in the region's higher education sector. His passion for learning technologies is apparent through his successful leadership of teams providing solutions that help higher education institutions in South Asia deliver quality learning experiences to students. And prior to Turnitin, Jack was a client trainer and relationship manager at one of the UK's leading payment technology vendors in Australia. Hi, Jack. With no further ado, please welcome.
Thank you so much. And thank you to the previous speaker. And I'd like to say hello to Bertha, Executive Director, and I'd like to thank him for arranging this very excellent event. For me, I'm very excited to be helping UGM with this webinar. A lot of people might not know, but UGM was my first university I visited in Indonesia nearly 6 years ago. So I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you.
Oops. So today I will be presenting on the topic strengthening research ethics using plagiarism tool. So when I look at writing, what I want to encourage to all the attendees to this webinar, I want you to think of yourselves as citizens of integrity. And when we are citizens of integrity, we understand that writing is a process, and sadly, it is a skill set that we have to learn over time, and we have to be exposed to it, and we will build upon our skill set every time we write. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell you how we can define, avoid plagiarism, but also give an overview of what is international best practice. So my agenda today is an introduction and overview of what is academic integrity for students, academic integrity for academics. I'll touch upon international journals, impact factor, takeaway publishing tools, and of course, I will provide a live demonstration of what I believe is a student's paper, and I'll give a little bit of context on how to interpret an originality report. My name is Jack Brazel. I am the Southeast Asia Director. I've lived here in Jakarta, Indonesia, since March 2018, and I'm a very happy Jakarta resident. So overview. So what is academic dishonesty? So for me, plagiarism is really hard to define in any precise way. At the simplest level, it is the copying text from other authors and using it as if it were their own. But to make this is actually not a malicious skill, a malicious item that people decided to plagiarize. It more comes from a skill set deficit. Now, as time has progressed, we've actually seen different types of plagiarism arrive. So a new one was computer code plagiarism, so where people actually steal computer code. And a big one that we're seeing right around the world, which was on that video, is contract cheating. So simply put, contract cheating is where someone pays a third party to complete an assignment, like that poor lady who got caught. So when we look at academic integrity for students, there's many ways they can do it. They can falsify data, they can do contract cheating, they can copy, and of course they can do the simple plagiarize. Within the faculty, there can also be integrity challenges as well, where they do plagiarizing, copying, and contract cheating, the falsifying data, unethical research, and of course, improper recognition of researchers. So for the faculty members out there who want to avoid plagiarism when doing assessments, our advice is that you should design assessments that are hard to copy, design tests and assessments that can be done in class, but also spend time teaching students that plagiarism is illegal, explain that buying work is plagiarism, and of course, spend the time doing proper citations. Often when I visit a lot of universities, I notice that citation is not really taught particularly well, and it's important that we teach our students how to do that. Of course, please use a plagiarism checkup formatively. When I say formatively, allow students to access Turnitin many times throughout the writing process so that they can check and recheck. Because often students might get a high score, and by checking with Turnitin, they'll see the high score and then they'll think they'll be able to make corrective changes, which I'll show you in the demonstration. But many of you, I believe, are progressing to become an academic. And when you become an academic, the stakes are a lot higher when it comes to plagiarism. And when you are publishing, there are expectations. The materials submitted for peer review have data that should not be falsified, and all research has been cited. You should proofread, spell check, and polish before you submit. And you must follow the writing conventions of scientific writing. So let's really touch upon how to cite someone else's ideas. So let's go back to basics. When I think about citation, citation is the way of acknowledging someone else's previous work. And remember, in academia, we should always be looking at the previous research. And when we do papers, academic research is like a volcano. We add a little bit. We look at the previous work, we make reference to it, and then we add our own interpretation. And these are some of the citations that you should consider. So the MLA style for humanities, APA in psychology and education, Chicago Notes and bibliography in history, and Chicago Author-based in the sciences. So when we're using Chicago Author Date, as I believe many of you are in the science field, you actually cite the sources in the text. So this would include the author's last name, followed by the year of publication, as shown below. If you are referring to a specific part of the text, you should actually add a page number or page range to direct the reader in the relevant passage, similar to that. And when we do in-text citations, it should appear at the end of the relevant sentence or quotation before any punctuation. If any multiple citations are needed at the same point, they should really appear at the same set. And of course, if the researcher's name is already mentioned in the text, the citation should appear straight after it and include only the date with the page numbers. Now, as you progress with your academic career, of course, you're going to want to find international journals to cite to ensure you actually don't use anyone's ideas. So my recommendation is that you go into Google Scholar and look at the research there to see what's been done. You can, of course, use some external tools if you have access to them, like JSTOR, Journal Finder there. And what you need to do is you actually need to consider the impact factor, okay? Because when you're doing research, you need to deal with the best. So for those who don't know what impact factor is, obviously it's the ranking of the journal, number of citations, and the reach of a journal. So, and when you write that paper, you really want to have a high impact factor, i.e., you want everyone to be talking about it. And there's just a few definitions. And these are some of the tools that you can use out there. So journal citation reports, the journal rank, and then the SNIP. So when you're getting ready to write a scholarly piece, and of course, everyone wants to achieve a high impact factor. Here are the takeaway tips that we've seen across our customers globally. Make sure you get the structure right, okay? So maybe, you know, when you're writing that paper, go off and research what is good scientific writing. And because that is what the journal editors and peer reviewers will be looking for, plus the academic and scholarly journals, because you need to adhere to the expectations of academic integrity. So to refresh, we have introductions, materials and methods, results, discussions, and then conclusion. So when we're writing the introduction, of course, you want to put your passion and your reasons for studying whatever you have studied. But of course, cite the work that is being done. Outline, you know, the materials and methods, and, you know, explain the nature of your experiment or research. And of course, how does your research add to that volcano build? And of course, put out the research, articulate the outcome of your research, and explain what happened. And for me, this is where the most important part of the research paper is. This is where you put your opinion, where you add to the research body, and how this adds to your field. And then conclude. And this is where, again, you can pull upon other relevant studies and avenues for potential collaboration. Now, for Turnitin, we play a major part in it. And I'm really proud to work for Turnitin because we believe that we develop people into citizens of integrity. For me, I believe that plagiarizing your way through university is concerning, because imagine the consequences for society. Imagine you go in to see a doctor who's treating you perhaps for COVID, and they plagiarize their way through medical school. Would you like to be treated by that person? How about the engineer that built a bridge, but plagiarized his way through the course on bridge building? And Turnitin plays a role in helping you get to a level where you can call yourself a citizen of integrity. So Turnitin is a tool that supports you on the writing journey. You certainly should not perceive Turnitin as a tool that is negative, that is punitive, that is there to catch you. Turnitin will help you write better. And ultimately, for those who want to research, it will lead to a better outcome for you as an academic. And this is the main product that we're going to talk about today. So how does Turnitin really work so well to help you avoid plagiarism? The reason Turnitin works very well in helping 30,000 universities around the world avoid plagiarism is because of the databases in which a paper is checked against. And when you're working with Turnitin, there are 3 major databases. So Turnitin has an internet database, and we've had that since we opened in the early 2000s. And we have a special technology, which we call the internet crawler. And what that does, every day, it goes looking for internet content and puts it in our database. But also at the same time, it goes back to existing web pages to see if any change has taken place. A good example here is Wikipedia. Wikipedia changes every day based on the contributions of the authors. But what we do is we go back all the time to make sure we're telling our customers what is Wikipedia putting out to the world. The second database is the student paper database. So customers have an option to submit their papers to a global database to prevent collusion. And then finally, the most important database for any future academic or aspiring academic is our Crossref database. So Crossref is a global publications body, and they work with Turnitin to maintain one of the world's biggest published content databases. And I just have a little bit of data here on how much is within this database. So within the internet database, we have 90 billion pages. Within the student paper database, we actually have 1.5 billion papers. And in the content database, we have about 200 million papers. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a Turnitin software, and we're going to have a look at some papers that were provided to me by the webinar committee. And we're going to interpret them, and we're going to have a bit of a discussion, and then I believe we'll head to questions. So the first one that probably immediately jumps out to everyone is the 100% paper. So let's have a look at that. So when we think about a plagiarism checker, what I want to teach you is that Turnitin is more a content matching tool. We cannot necessarily interpret whether or not plagiarism has taken place. That is up to the journal editors, that is up to your lecturers, and everyone like that. But because of the size of our databases, we can certainly tell you if there is any matches out there. So what that means is sometimes we will match to things that really aren't relevant, which we'll see in the next paper. But in this case, it looks like this paper can be found in its entirety in an internet site called Netlity. So if we click on the side there, we can find nearly everything matches there, okay? And often, Turnitin, you need to be careful that you don't double match, i.e. you might put a paper into the Turnitin database, and then at a later time, you go for publication and it matches to that. So the good thing is, if you're aiming to get this paper published, you would know in advance that that resource was found online, and you could explain that to the editing body. But let's go back into more a real fun one to interpret. Okay, so I've been provided this paper by an anonymous student, and if this person is watching at the moment, please do not worry. I will be very kind, and I definitely don't think this paper has been plagiarized. Now, to give you a little bit of context, I understand that Universitas Gadjah Mada has a policy of 20% for plagiarized papers as an acceptable threshold. We, as Turnitin, do not believe in having thresholds because it comes back to the point of that Turnitin is a content matching tool. And often we will match to things that really aren't relevant and cannot be considered as plagiarism. So with this case here, we're in the medical faculty, and think of, sentences that are used frequently. The leading cause of death is diabetes. That will often come up. So the first thing I often do is when I look at papers, I'll look at all the matches. So we can see there, we have a lot of 1%ers. So let's have a look at them. So we can see their prostate volume has been measured by various methods. Let's actually do side by side. And again, it's really not stealing any concept there. It's very frequently used. Oops. But we should really look at the big one. And again, here's a really key example. We acknowledge the Human Research and Ethics Committee. That would be frequently used across the world. And again, the text here is very you would not be concerned by the matches found in here, because none of it is indicative that they've done any sort of real plagiarism. Stealing of data is not indicative here because you can see that here. So you would have looked at these matches and thought, okay, I'm not too concerned about it. So we should start to do a little bit of filtering. The first thing first, right now, that 37% actually includes the bibliography and the quotes. So let's hit that and see what happens. It drops by 30%, which is good and expected. Now, what we should do is get rid of, the small matches that really aren't indicative of plagiarism. And typically, I would put around 3 to 5%. So we're excluding sources that are less than a certain percentage. And we now have 2 matching sources, okay? So let's have a quick look at this one again. And by looking at that, my belief would be this is just matching to a similar paper, but I'm not seeing evidence of data being stolen. And let's go to the final match. And again, similar. If it was plagiarism, I would be concerned if I saw that matching, because that would be plagiarized data. But what we're seeing here is very small matches that were found on our very big database. Now, for the younger students out there, I'd like to touch upon some new capabilities that Turnitin has. We now have the ability to match against when students might, hide text, okay, to avoid checking, or if they've done any text replacement. And we also offer the ability to do a grammatical feedback tool. For some reason, can't process this paper. I'll have to have a quick look later. And we're also able to put feedback on the paper, so Turnitin can be used to help mark papers. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open the session to questions, and we'll take it from there.
Okay. Wow. Jack, thank you so much. Very useful for us to understand better about the plagiarism and also the Turnitin. Let me just give you some highlights of the points that Jack presented. So plagiarism is, say, presenting someone else's work or someone else's ideas as your own with or without their consent by incorporating it into your work without full acknowledgement. So it means that as long as we cite the source or acknowledge the reference, we are safe. So we have to be very careful. And some points that we can do to avoid plagiarisms, it's good to keep track of the sources that we use in our research, and then paraphrasing or quoting, you need to decide. And of course, we need to add our own ideas, not only other people's ideas, and then crediting original author in the in-text citation and also in the reference list. And also it will be very useful to use plagiarism checker such as Turnitin. And Turnitin itself, this is internet-based plagiarism detection services. It is a matching tools and provide us with detailed analysis. And in Turnitin, they do not set a certain percentage as the standard, although some institution or some universities, they have their own standard, say 20 to 30%, for example. So it really depends. And so it means that when we see some analysis from Turnitin, we still need to check in details, like what Jack just presented to us in a live demo. So we cannot just use the percentage of the initial analysis as the final one. We still need to check back in details. And I would like to say thank you for those who sent us the paper. So unfortunately, because we have limited time, we only have one paper that checked by Jack today, not all of the papers that sent to us. But thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And now I think we hit the Q&A session. I believe you already have some questions sent to us, and let's have a look at the first one. Hello, Utkarsh Sharma. Thank you so much. The question is, why not Turnitin plagiarism checker detect Hindi language? Jack,
sure.
please.
So I'm going to assume you're based in India, so namaste. Now, to be honest, my memory is actually a little bit weak on here. I used to work in India quite a bit for Turnitin. I believe there is it does match, but with Turnitin, the biggest challenge we have with a language like Hindi is actually finding relevant content to match against. So when we compare Hindi to Bahasa Indonesian research is readily available, and it's very easy for us to access. And we can jump on there and we can put that in our database. With Hindi, we don't have a lot of access to a lot of research, and it's an active problem that we have to work against. But yeah, Hindi is quite difficult, unfortunately, also due to the nature of the characters of the language. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So this is because of the database available in Hindi, right? So that's
exactly.
why. Okay, yeah. All right.
And also,
thank you so much.
Yeah, and also like Hindi is a different character as well. So matching against it is a bit more problematic.
Okay, who knows, next year we have some new system or new policy, and then we can just have that.
Yeah, we can go get some more. We can go find some more content. If you've got any suggestions on content, we'd be very happy to hear them.
All right, Jack, thank you so much. Can we go to the next questions, please? Isra Salim Khan. Hi, Isra. So the question is very simple. We use synonyms. Jack, you got the point?
Not really, but yes, we can definitely use synonyms, and that would be matched against it. I should add, okay, so Turnitin is a text-based matching tool, okay? So we can match against published work with similar text. Now, we are now going down the line of where we do, I don't know if people are familiar with this term. It's called CSI, crime scene investigation, where we check to look at the writing style. So we look at Jack as an author and we compare this work against previous work. And then we would say, okay, we don't believe Jack did this by looking at the metadata. But at the moment, we would compare published work with published work, okay? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, I hope for the
audience.
Yeah,
Isra. Yeah, I think that's where the question's going. So if you use synonyms, does that avoid the check? It would be based on what they match against in the database. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well, that's good. Jack, thank you so much. Isra, thank you so much for the questions. Next question, please. Hi, Rudy from Jambi. If I want to have Turnitin access for myself, how I can get it, and how about the price?
So selamat pagi, Pak Rudy. We do not sell to individuals. Turnitin has a very long policy of that. Now, in Indonesia, you may be approached by individuals who say that they can sell Turnitin to you. My kind advice is do not engage with them. The reason for that is, one, your papers may end up in a database that you do not want to be in, okay? Also, you may lose your money because often people sell these accounts and then we see them maybe 2 or 3 days later, and then we shut down the account, and then you lose the money that you pay for it. So my advice to this gentleman would be to please go ahead to your university and ask for support to acquire Turnitin, because you will unfortunately get hurt, I'm afraid.
Okay, thank you so much. Turnitin is the institutional base, so this is not like a personal subscription. So for your information, Universitas Gadjah Mada, as Jack mentioned, we already have the license for the Turnitin, especially in the library. So for those who are UGM students, lecturers, or researchers, you may use the services through UGM library, and what you need to do is you send your paper through our email, and then we will be helping you in analyzing your paper. So yes, once again, this is not a personal base, but this is institutional subscription or the license. Thank you so much for the questions. Now, okay. Mr. Roy SS, I don't know where you come from, Roy, but good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. If I use a paraphrasing tool, it's called a form of plagiarism.
Hi, Roy. I hope you're doing well. So that is a type of plagiarism if you do not cite. We call that mosaic plagiarism, and we're currently about to release a new update on our platform where we can actually prove that mosaic plagiarism took place. So my advice to Roy would be follow the conventions that I put forward in the in today's presentation, and follow that and cite and make reference to the author, and you'll be good.
Yes. So once again, so if we use the plagiarism tool, this is just the tool to help you to track or to detect the plagiarism. So this is not the form of plagiarism itself. So like what Jack explained, there are some aspects that considered plagiarism, but one of them is you try to present or use someone else's work or ideas without acknowledging it. So once again, as long as you cite the source and acknowledge the reference, you are safe. So, okay, so thank you so much. So now we will give the participants chance to ask questions directly. So we have Frank Soleil. Hi, Frank. And then after that, we will have Tess Jenny. Hi, thank you so much for the questions. Yes, I can hear you. Can you kindly introduce yourself? Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you for the for this chance and for the opportunity and for the brilliant presentation from Jack. I have a question about the Turnitin repository. The last year I have when I was checking my paper on Turnitin, and by error, by mistake, I've checked my paper with repository option, and until now, 8 months, I cannot delete it. So I'm asking, how can I remove it on Turnitin database?
Hello, Frank. Can I ask where are you from?
Yes,
I'm from Congo.
Ah, okay.
Congo.
Awesome.
Yes,
Wow.
Africa.
Africa.
Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
So Frank, this would have ended.
Jack, please.
Oh, sorry. Yes. So yes, it is up in the database, and you would need to delete that. And to do that, you would need to approach the administrator of the university. So in the case of Universitas Gadjah Mada, I would suspect the admin is in the librarian, and you'd need to, approach maybe the librarian and say, hi, I need to delete this paper for XYZ reasons. And they would put the request in with Turnitin. Okay. So please do not contact Turnitin to delete that paper. Only authorized individuals can contact Turnitin and request that. We would disregard any other, individuals that approach us. We would tell them to approach the university. Okay.
So perhaps it's a good idea if in Congo, you can just find the institution that you are there. So, and then consult with them, and then the institution or the organization contact Turnitin.
Yeah. But I have another question. But in Congo, in Central Africa, I checked online, some local Turnitin. We don't have I cannot find online on Google some local Turnitin in Central Africa. I don't know if I can have some email or some contact.
Did you check your paper via the university?
No. One friend helped me to check it. Yes.
Okay, so you're going to again. This is where you can get into a little bit of trouble. So my advice would be to go back to your friend and work out the exact account, and who is the administrator. And again, guys, this is a risk of using unauthorized people to check papers. Your paper can end up in a database and you can't get rid of it. And then when you're going for publication, perhaps, you can end up having an awkward situation saying, hey, my paper is in XYZ Turnitin database and I don't know why. Because we have to respect the integrity of customers' databases, unfortunately. And only the customer in question can authorize the deletion of a paper. I hope that answers your question there, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much for clarifying this. Jack. So I'm sure this is very clear. And so you have to be very careful if you use the unauthorized license for this. Okay. Can we have another chance to
hello.
ask questions? Hi, Oliver.
Hello.
Hi, Oliver. Yes, please. Where do you come from?
From the Philippines.
Okay. Hi, Philippines. Please, Oliver.
My question is, are all free paraphrasing tools internet are reliable and accurate?
I think the question was, are paraphrasing tools reliable and accurate?
Yes, free. Found in
oh, okay.
Free one.
Free.
Okay, free one.
Yeah. So, Oliver, obviously, hello. I'll actually be in the Philippines next week, so I'm excited to go back there after 2 years of lockdown. I want to encourage you to not use a paraphrase tool. My advice would be to go back to, developing your skill set, paraphrasing well, and of course, citation well. Better to focus on the skills of writing rather than using a free tool, because often you do not know what is done with your writing data. We've had stories of people's writing actually appearing in essay mills. So you put your paper into a paraphrasing tool and then they steal it for a future essay, okay? And, it goes back to that saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. So my advice is go back, learn how to, focus on your paraphrasing skills and then go from there, okay?
Can I follow up question? Is there
one, please.
free plagiarism tools? Because I found some plagiarism tool that can we use in our research, and is it also accurate to use rather than the plagiarism tools that can we buy to a company?
Yeah, so obviously I represent Turnitin, so I'm a little bit biased. I'm like a fox in a chicken's hen. So Turnitin will give you the best score. And again, Oliver, be careful putting your papers into a free tool, because you do not know what will happen with your data, with your publishing data, okay? And, I think if I were you, I would go back to your university management and lobby for funding, because again, there is a potential that you may get harmed in this process, your reputation as a, an aspiring academic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, we just need to be very careful because we know like so many free tools available online, but still we need to consider many things before using that. Thank you so much, Jack. Wow. Okay, so we go to the next one. Test Jenny team.
Hello.
Hi. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hello. Am I audible?
Hi. Yes.
Hi,
yes.
ma'am.
We can hear you.
This is Divya from India. Actually, that was my
Hi,
name for
India.
this meeting. It was a professional meeting, so the name was that. Actually, I'm Divya based from India, and it's a great session so far. Thank you so much.
Okay, please.
Ma'am, my question is.
Yes, please, your questions.
Ma'am, my question is that like we have research papers where we publish our own data, our own research and findings, but then we have review papers where we have a collection of different researches done on a particular topic. So will that review paper be considered as a plagiarized data or not?
Hello. Hello. Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
Hello. Hello.
Hi. Yes, I'm not so sure. It's like breaking up the connection, perhaps. Can you please repeat shortly?
Okay. So, ma'am, review paper are a collection of previous researches done on a particular topic. So will that review paper be considered as a plagiarized data collection, or if we refer each and every author done the previous research, will it be plagiarism free after giving references to particular authors?
So namaste, obviously. It really depends on what is the outcome of your paper. So if your university, if it's an internal paper, you follow the standards that the university sets. The nature of my presentation today was global best practice, i.e. you're putting your paper out there for publication or, standard plagiarism policies. But again, I bring it back to citizens of integrity. If you want to be a good academic, you should always reference your work and follow citations and the writing conventions put forward today.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Thank you so much from India. Okay, so next questions will be from YouTube, perhaps. Okay. Hi, Ali from Aceh. Oh, wow, Aceh. What is the important point if we want our article can be received in Turnitin?
Sure. Selamat
Okay,
pagi.
Jack, please.
Yeah. Selamat pagi, Bu Ellie. I've never been to Aceh. I hope one day I can. And yeah, maybe we can go down there and meet. So,
Very beautiful island.
Yeah, very beautiful. I heard there's very good diving. So my belief is that in terms of when you write an article, Turnitin should be used throughout the writing process, okay? Often people see writing as one job, okay? What I want you to do is look at Turnitin as an insurance policy that you check and recheck and make sure that you accidentally have not taken anything inadvertently. So my point is, work with Turnitin in a very formative and positive manner to make sure that you're happy with the work that's going out into the public domain, and Turnitin can support that. Hope that helps.
Thank you so much, Jack. So is it clear? I believe this is clear. Yep. All right. Next one from Jakarta. Oh, Ali, he's a librarian. When using Turnitin, there is a flag menu, but when downloaded, the flag menu does not exist, only on using the Turnitin application.
Okay.
Okay.
Hello, Ali. Hope you're well. I'm going to put an email address you can contact in the chat bar. So please write your concern there, and I'll make sure one of my staff get back to you. It's a small problem, and we'll be able to work out what's going on. But thanks for your question.
Great. Thank you so much, Jack and Ali, and thank you so much for providing us your email address, the email address for us to check and to ask questions. Now we go to Bobby Fairley. Hi, Bobby. Hi, Bobby. It seems like Bobby opened the video, but he's not there. Hi, Bobby. Or perhaps can we just give
Okay, we can go
another
to
chance?
Connie Ponetis.
Connie?
Connie Ponetis, yes.
Hi, Connie. Panotes. Hi, Connie. You there?
Hi.
Hi, Connie. Your question,
good
please. Where do you come from?
I'm from the Philippines, and
Hi, Philippines.
my questions is if we include a quotation or a quote in our research, like a famous line or an original definition of something related with the topic being talked about in the research without paraphrasing it. I actually saw this question also in the comment section, like if he include copy phrases or cross references, is it considered as plagiarism, and does the Turnitin will consider it also as a plagiarize? That's all. Thank you.
So thank you for your question.
Thank you.
Are you from Indonesia or?
From Philippines.
Oh, Philippines. Okay, so selamat po, selamat po.
Salamat po.
So the first thing I want you to think of is Turnitin is not the judge, jury, and executioner of plagiarism. We are a content matching system, and our job is to help you avoid plagiarism. Now, to your question in particular, if you follow the conventions of citation, there should be no problems. If you cite everything to the best of your ability and you have no malicious intent, you will be fine. So do not be concerned about plagiarism and the consequences of it. My belief is that you should focus on the conventions of citation to ensure that it's been avoided.
Thank you so much, Jack. So it's okay to have like the quotation from the famous researcher, for example, or definition really exactly the same like what it is. And then you try to put the quote, and after that you cite it. So it's safe. And then again, and after the analysis, and then you will just make. Thank you so much, Jack. So can we
Hello, Mbak Safira.
Yes.
Hello. Yes,
Yes.
your connection unstable.
Okay.
Okay, now.
All right. Good, good. So now, so we have the next question.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that name. I might look a bit silly. So how many times can a university allow a student to use plagiarism tools? In my belief, it should be as many times as the student would like to. But each university will have their policy on usage, and of course we respect that. So it depends on the university.
All right. Thank you so much, Jack. So at Universitas Gadjah Mada, so students are free to contact us to get help from the library for the Turnitin services. So good news. Okay. Next is the next questions. Hi, India. So how can the university apply the subscription of plagiarism, the charges?
Okay,
Jack.
so thanks for your inquiry there, and obviously namaste. Please contact, I will put an email in there you can contact, which is very similar to my other email, india@turnitin.com, and please make your inquiry known there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack. Yes, perhaps we can proceed to the next question.
Okay, it's a wrap. I think we can go to the next session.
All right. Wow, finally, we finished our sessions. Unfortunately, not all of the questions can be answered here because we have limited time. But thank you so much for the questions. We really appreciate it for your positive energy, your excitement, and to stay from morning to here, almost 12 here in Indonesia. And in our Zoom, we have 1K 1,000 people and others try to participate on YouTube. So this is very great. So thank you so much. And Jack, we would like to say thank you.
You're very welcome. It was a pleasure.
For the presentation, and then for the insights, and then perspective and explanation to all of us, so we understand better about plagiarism and then Turnitin.
Terima kasih.
Okay. Terima kasih. I hope that we can meet again in the other session in the future. So thank you so much for everybody. And after this, we still have some nice session with technical team and then the MC. So for now, from me, thank you so much. I will see you again in the next session, and we will just go back to Maniso and the team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Pak
thank
Jack.
you.
Thank you, Mbak Safira.
Give applause to the speakers and moderator. Thank you, Miss Safira, Mr. Jack, and Miss Bertha, who have outstanding performance. It's time for door prize announcement. Please, the committee to share the door prize winner. Miss Putri. Okay, congratulations for the winners.
Wow, congratulations.
We will contact you later. Okay, Marnangkok, Natala, and okay. Congratulations for the winners. We will contact you later. Finally, we come to the end of this event. Thank you for joining us today. See you next time. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you all.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a nice day.
Stop.